I wanted to continue with the exploring parts of the body and their relationship to how they can help us get a little bit more embodied. And so working up from the feet, we're going to come to the pelvis. Now, my background in dance, Pilates, tends to be control the pelvis, and then keeping control of the pelvis, we learn to move the limbs, the torso around, trying to keep the pelvis still. But also from my dance background, there is this element of moving the hips as part of our training. And I wanted to explore and share with you the sensuality and creativity of the hips, because especially when it comes to setting intentions and thinking about what we want to take forwards into our lives, it's the seat of creation that sits within the pelvis, the sacral chakra, or if you think from the Chinese philosophies, the dantian, which is our center of gravity. This is our center that as we move, right, it is what propels us, right? It wants to move us. So we want to think about this being our seat of what takes us and moves us through life. And we want to do it in a stable and yet free way. So I wanted just to start with the basic movements. So you can just take a stand, and if you're not comfortable standing, you can do this lying on the floor. That's a little harder. And we're just going to start with some little pelvic isolation. So have your feet just wider than shoulder distance apart. Have the hips over the center of your feet and the knees slightly bent. I'm just going to begin with isolations, taking the hips side to side. Now you can see it shortens in the side of my waist as I do this, okay? And I'm just trying to get this little lift. My knee will straighten on the side that is lifting, okay? And I'm not doing anything forwards or back. My hips are just going side to side. And we're just doing this just to warm up a bit of isolation, a bit of squeezing into those side hip muscles and the waist. Okay, I'm just trying to isolate this side to side movement, and this is something you can even do sat in a chair, is just trying to lift one hip off the floor. I've shared it before, it's part of the bum shuffles exercise. It's really great for strengthening the side waist. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start to take it forwards and back. So we'll go forwards and back, forwards, back. So that is that obvious forwards, rocking the pelvis forwards and back. And obviously if you've got low back problems, just be gentle with how big this movement is. We're trying not to let the whole of the body move around with us. It's just the pelvis that's isolating. So think about the hip bones drawing up and then drawing down. So think about the movement of the hip bones, and the pubic bone comes forwards and tilts to the floor or backwards, yeah? So that's our direction, is moving from the bony landmarks, and that can sometimes help us with how we're moving and isolating the pelvis, because there's a lot in there. We don't actually have as much sensory awareness generally in this area. So it can become a bit of a numb, hard to connect into area, and considering it's our core center, it's where we want to find that deep strength that stabilizes us. When we don't have that feeling connection with it, we can start with the bony landmarks to help us build this relationship. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go into a cross. So you're going to go forwards, side, back, side, forwards, side, back, side, forwards, side, back, side. One more time. And back and side, reversing forwards, back, and 4 times. You can have a little bounce in those knees. It kind of just naturally wants to start happening. And as you can tell, trying to keep my upper body pretty still and just letting my pelvis be the rhythm. Okay, this time we're going to go into some circles. So you want to take it to that forward, side, back, side, forwards, but really try and see if it can be from those hip points, going around that 4 point you just did. Let the weight shift in your feet and let your knees move. And if you feel like you want to go faster, you can. Please do bear in mind that as you're doing this, we're trying to get this full range of movement to all four corners. This is great, kind of hula dancing, belly dancing, preparation, cinching in the waist, toning in all those muscles of the waist. And then we'll reverse in the other way. Again, really try get that circle as big as you can in all those directions. She feels so nice releasing into the back. Again, reduce the range of motion if you've got any pain in the back, and really trying to increase with a bit of flexibility, but also with strength moving. Okay, we'll finish up this circle, come back to center, a little shake out of everything, and then the last one's going to be the figure of 8. Now this is our salsa dancing hips, okay? And we really want to get that feeling like we're going through the center of the figure of 8, forward, side, back, center, forward, side, back. And let your weight shift and move naturally with your feet. But if you can, try and allow those feet to stay still so that as you're moving, the hips, they are leading. But let the feet be really nice and grounded and connected in that flat sense, but rolling through the arches of the feet naturally as you do this. So there'll be one way that you find really easy, and then we're going to try and reverse to the other way. So that less fluid way will come second. Give it a go. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit robotic to start with. And you're just using this to really explore that sense in the pelvis. And hopefully now that you should be feeling a bit freer in the hips and the feet, you can choose now to take some of your own free-form movements. So if you're quite comfortable with a yoga mat and that's more your place, you may find that it's more normal for you to feel like coming to hands and knees and just trying some cat movements, but just working the pelvis. So just finding the pelvis doing those rocks, maybe allowing it to shorten and wag your tail. Again, try and keep the upper body as still as possible, isolating into the hips. And then drawing your circles, just trying to barrel in that tail. So I like to think of it as though my tail is trying to draw a big circle behind me. And we'll go the other way. And what you start to do is as you get a bit more playful, and you might say, oh, I fancy going forwards. You find yourself a little back bend. And then from the pelvis, it tucks under and it picks you up and it rounds you back into a cat stretch, into a shell stretch. So from the tail, it draws you up, it pushes forwards and draws into that back bend. And from the tail, it draws and lifts you up and pushes back into that child's pose. We're just now using it to start to initiate that spinal movement, adding in shoulders, hips and knees. And then perhaps once to round, you can move yourself off. Try and really initiate that movement from the hips so that if you want to add in, twists or some kind of coming off and rotating and dropping into side movements, you want to lead it from the pelvis. It moves for you rather than the movement coming from the hands. So we're starting to really focus on this movement is coming from the pelvis. It's all leading. So it's whatever I choose. It could be side lifts, but all of it's coming from this underneath. It's coming from the pelvis choosing to initiate the movement. And if you don't want to be on hands and knees, and if you do want to come up to standing, again, it's explore your movement leading from your pelvis. So this is no different from what we're just doing on hands and knees, but I'm trying to think about my pelvis is what draws my legs. And then I get this lovely choice that comes from my center of gravity, and it creates this fluidity that comes from and moves out. And then there's a sense that things can be expressive and creative with that strong core in the center that's pleasurable, pleasure-led, and sensual. And we're sensual beings. We want to feel and sense, enjoy life. So let your hips be your guide. Let them move you. Let them take you on an adventure. I hope you enjoyed this little exploration of the hips and the pelvis. Feel that expression, that creativity that drives you to have the most fulfilling and love-filled life. Let me know how you find it, guys. See you soon.